The 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 128 with Henry Boulton, co-creator of the FocusBand.
There is a time and place for working on technique, and that is a left brain function. So you want to do that when you're in working on technique on the range with your coach. Keep that separate from play mode. It's when you try and put them together is when it gets messed up.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. Thank you for joining us this week, where we have a special guest, Henry Boulton, one of the co-creators of the FocusBand. And if you've kind of paid attention to golf over the past couple of years, or if you've had a chance to go down to the PGA show like we did these past couple of years, you'll notice that there's a huge trend towards much more of the technological stuff, more of the software-based things, and also just measuring stats and data and things like that. But what I've noticed has been really interesting is kind of the crossover between not just the technological stuff and golf, but also filtering in some of the brain training and not just the mental game coaching, the sports psychology side. That's been in the game for a while, I feel. But also just the idea of actually literally being able to see what your brain is doing or what is going on with your brain, kind of tying into the whole idea of, meditation and quiet mind and those types of things that we've heard about in other areas. I think in martial arts it's been very prominent, but now we're starting to see much more of a shift of that into golf, which I'm simply fascinated by. There's a lot to the whole idea of being mindful and practicing, some of the quiet, intentional thoughts of what you're doing and visualizing. We've seen that with guys like Jason Day and many of the other tour players. And so Henry, being one of the co-creators of the FocusBand, has actually worked with PGA Tour players like Jason Day. He's one of the guys that they really worked with over the past several years, guys like Padraig Harrington. And, they found that being able to really help someone focus their mind has really helped them to figure out how to focus their practice and their skill acquisition. So today we're going to talk about several things along with the FocusBand, just the whole idea of, the mindfulness. And Henry goes through kind of a 4-step routine that he recommends to their golfers prior to hitting a shot. And then also how to properly, make yourself aware of where the target is, where the ball is, and what you're doing in the proper sequence to actually hit the ball when working on figuring out your target zones. We're going to discuss just the fundamentals of the brain, left side of the brain versus the right side, the left side being a little bit more that critical side and the detail-oriented side, where the right side is more the creative side and free-flowing side. And so we're going to talk about some major distinguishments there. And then simply how these guys are using the FocusBand to decrease time that is needed for skill acquisition. We've heard of the 10,000 hours with Malcolm Gladwell. We've heard of the multiple repetitions and, how many repetitions it takes to become a master at something and learn a skill. Well, they're noticing that with the use of some of this technology, they're able to decrease the amount of time it takes to acquire some of these skills. So it's just very, very fascinating stuff that I think is super exciting and, gives us a lot of potential of what we can do along with our practice. If we're already practicing and doing the right things, this could be that extra little touch that kind of takes you to the next level. All right, I want to take a quick moment to just thank our sponsor for the show, which is Super Speed Golf. Super Speed Golf obviously is one of our favorite tools here at 18 Strong. It's the overspeed training device that I personally use with a lot of my clients to help increase swing speed. I use it myself. We bought my dad one for Christmas. And, it's just one of those tools that we're starting to see kind of explode on tour and just in the golf community. And so we did something kind of cool a few months back. I was able to go up to Chicago and visit with Mike Napoleon, and shoot a little bit of video with him regarding the super speed clubs and what they're doing. But if you go to 18strong.com/superspeed, you'll be able to see some of these videos. The one video in particular is kind of telling the story of super speed golf, how the idea came about, how they came up with the style and the prototype that they're using and continue to evolve, and why they're teaching golfers to use the sequences that they do, the training programs that they have, and how this product has gained so much popularity so quickly. So definitely go check out 18strong.com/superspeed. Also, what I love about this product is that it kind of ties into what we talk about in this episode, the whole clear mind. The SuperSpeed golf clubs are designed specifically to feel like a golf club, but not look like a golf club. So you kind of get out of that left-sided brain, critical thinking of all your positions, and you're just able to swing with the intention of making your body move faster. So I think you'll see a lot of ties into this episode with the way that you utilize the SuperSpeed golf clubs. So you can also go to superspeedgolf.com to check those out and get all the information. You can sign up for their training protocols, and be sure to use the code 18STRONG to get yourself a discount on those. All right, let's jump into the episode with co-creator of the FocusBand, Henry Boulton. Henry, welcome to the 18 Strong podcast. It's so great to catch up with you again, my friend.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So you and I had a chance to meet, not this past PGA show, but the year before, and it just kind of a random circumstance. I got a text message from my buddy Greg McLean from down at Premier Fitness Systems, and he says, "Hey, you should have my buddy Henry on the show from FocusBand." I'm like, "Oh, wait a second. We hung out with Henry. Yes, we definitely need to have him on the show." And so finally our paths circle around to bring you back on the show. So if you could, I know I got to sit and talk with you and your dad about, kind of the background of the FocusBand, but give us a little more background on you so the audience kind of understands just your background in general. And then we'll get into the talks of, how the whole idea of the FocusBand came about.
Well, I grew up playing golf back in Australia, right from when I was about 12 or 13. But I studied electronics when I left school, and then my electronics engineering, I ended up getting back into golf in my early 20s again. And I was always interested in going down that path. I just didn't know how it was going to end up. We were in 3D biomechanics, fitness, and how we got into FocusBand, it was an interesting one. We were working with tour players. This is 2007, 2008. We were working on their technique, their biomechanics with the 3D stuff, and their fitness. And the guys were going really well in practice. So they were practicing great. The practice rounds, the tournament preparation. Obviously, you've heard guys like shooting, 4 or 5 under in practice rounds comfortably. And they would get to the tournament, and they just didn't perform to their expectation. Like they were getting frustrated as well. So we started looking for brain training systems or brain measuring devices, and there wasn't really anything out there in the late 2000s. So obviously, being electronics engineers, we started looking around, and so we started building our own. And then at the end of 2009, we had a product that we were ready to take to market. That's how we got started with FocusBand. It was sort of out of necessity. The guys that we were training weren't performing. And then, yeah, sorry.
So I was just going to ask, so what made you, it sounds like you kind of, you saw them performing, you saw they had the biomechanics were on, the practice was on. What made you say, okay, obviously you had your electronics background, but let's tap into the brain. How do you bridge that gap? How do you even go about starting to say, okay, let's take some of our electronics background and tap into these guys' brain?
It all came back to frequency. The brain is, I guess it's like electronics for us, the way we looked at it. And all our training really made it a lot easier. We didn't come in from the neuroscience side. We came in from the electronics side. And we worked out the biggest problem that faced EEG, which is what we do. They suffer from a lot of noise when you start moving around with brain training systems. So our background was in high noise electronic environments, and so we were able to filter out all the noise and get a clean signal. That's still what separates us from the competitors, I guess, in this space, is that we're able to measure the brain without getting, they call them artifacts when you're doing EEG training. And we're able to filter that noise out so that you get clean data. That's the main thing that we were able to do. And previously, you had to sit still because of that reason. So traditionally, EEG was inside a lab or just sitting down inside. And what we were able to do was take the brain training outside, take it onto the golf course. Or we're in multiple sports, so you can kick a ball with it, ride a bike, just about anything, jump, serve, and volleyball. Any sport you can think of, we've sort of tested it on.
So the noise in the brain, you're saying that it's primarily just electrical signals, just like, like we have outlets in our house, or we have, radios and those kinds of things. It's basically pretty much the same, and that's exactly what you're measuring through the band itself?
Yes. So when your brain emits different frequency bands when you're in different mental states. So the brain basically measures from 1 to 44 hertz is the range. So when you're in peak performance, you tend to be down the lower, between the 4 to 12 hertz range. And then when you're in the thinking phase, you're in the 13 to 36 hertz, the higher range of frequencies. So we train people how to get down into the lower frequency levels.
And so give me an example of maybe something that we would be doing when we have the higher frequency going on, the thinking or distractions or something like that.
Thinking, yeah. So the thinking is, or the conscious mind is, anytime you have a thought, you're thinking about what you're going to eat tonight or what shot you're about to hit. That is a left brain function. But once you've done all your data gathering and decision making in the shot routine, then you need to switch back to that right brain, that being in the present moment phase. And that's where the FocusBand really helps. It allows you to know when to switch off from that left brain phase, the thinking phase, and cross into the flow state, or we use a Japanese word, which is mushin for that state. And that's another story. So mushin means no mind in Japanese. So it's a state of, in the Eastern terms, they say no mind. In Western terms, we say mindfulness. So it's just the way they interpret it.
And so the whole idea here is we want to, when we're kind of in that flow state, or we're performing at our best, and, like you see these guys just, on a streak, and it's almost like they're not even trying, they're not even thinking. You want to be in that lower hertz state, that motion state. And when you have that clearness of mind, that's when you tend to, what is it that makes us then tend to perform better? And are we better able to acquire skills at that point, or what is it that makes that frequency so special?
So the speed difference between the two brains is probably the left brain can do about 40 instructions per second. Now, the right brain can do up to 11 million instructions per second. So once you can get out of your left brain, get out of your own way, we say that a lot, and get into this flow state, you're allowing the brain to really take over and be athletic. That's the biggest thing. Once you're in flow state, you're using your imagination, you're activating the motor cortex the right way, your nervous system is flowing perfectly. It's making all the adjustments it needs to hit that shot. The only thing that really stuffs it up is when we have a thought, a swing thought, or an external factor, like you might worry about a bunker down the left, or people have random thoughts, like what am I going to eat for dinner tonight? All those sort of things come into people's heads as they're walking in, or they're trying to hit the shot. And that's what throws us out. We go from this flow state, and then when we have a thought or a random thought, it's really like an error to the system. We're going this beautiful 11 million instructions per second back to 40 instructions per second, and that's what causes the disconnect, and that's what causes the ball to go. You lose direction and you lose speed as well.
Well, I guess that makes a lot of sense, because, you mentioned having just random thoughts when you're out on the course. And I mean, you work with some of the best in the world, but especially the average amateur player, we're constantly working on, where are my hands here? What are my hips doing? Or, it's really bringing all these other little questions or movements or pieces or thoughts in. And you're exactly right. It's, at least from my own personal experience, when I have those kinds of thoughts going on in my head, or, there's a trap on the left, there's water on the right, that's when the game starts to fall apart. And it's when you can kind of clear all that away that then becomes a lot easier, it seems, and you just start to perform. Can you give us some examples of, I know you work with a lot of different players, but what are some of the ways that you then bring this out to the course when you're working with them? Or let me back up a little bit. Where do you actually start when you start working with a player, the very first time you go and meet with them?
We usually cover the brain fundamentals to begin with, like a little bit of what I spoke about. Because once you understand the concepts, so there's sort of three ways the brain's sort of explained, the left brain, right brain that I brought up. Then there's three brains, and then there's the whole brain explanation. I won't go into details about it, but once you understand the concepts about those, the way the brain's explained, then you understand where the conscious mind and the subconscious mind fit throughout the routine. And we usually start with, so what we did was we mapped out the whole shot routine. So we have it in 4 phases. So we have pre-shot routine, that's when you arrive at the ball. And what we want to do there is we want you to get back in the present moment. So for instance, if you've just 3-putted the last, or if you've just holed a birdie putt, they're sort of equal in what happens. You're either too positive or you're either too negative once you're walking off that once you're walking to the next tee. So it's very important to get back into a neutral state once you get back to the next shot. What's happened in the past, it's over, and you don't want to get too far in the future either. So it's all about getting back in the present and getting back into a neutral state once you arrive at the ball. And that's what we call the pre-shot routine. Now, we have drills that we do there. We call them the motion experience drills. And those drills help the players get back into the present moment. The second phase that we go through is the data gathering and decision-making part of the routine. Now, that's where you do, and this is a left brain phase of the routine. Now, that's where you do all your data gathering, like the lie, wind, bounce and roll, elevation, all those it's like a checklist that we go through there. And because we've got time in the shot routine, you're best to use your left brain for that part of the routine.
Gotcha.
And then once you've done that, then we go through we're making a decision, like what shape shot am I going to hit? Like a draw, straight, fade, the ball fly. Then am I going to hit low, medium, or high? And then you pull the club. Now, it's quite important that you wait till you get all that information before you pull the club. What you tend to find is most people get their yardage and then they just pull the club straight away. And then they're trying to make that club fit and they have, maybe the wind is like 10 miles into them and they didn't realize it was an extra club. And now they've already got the club in their hand and they're trying to make it fit. And that just causes tension that they don't need. And then once you've done that, obviously everyone does practice swings. Everyone uses it for different reasons. But this is where a really important piece that we worked out was this is where the intellect fits in this phase of the routine. So intellect is it's previous memory or a comparison to when you were here last time. That's probably the best 2 parts of intellect. Mm-hmm. So your intellect is really good for, say you're on the par 3, the 7th, and a year ago when you were here, say you pulled a 5-iron out when you've done your data gathering and you started doing your practice swings. And then when you start doing your practice swings, you go, that's right, when the wind comes from in off the left, it's actually a 4-iron. That's when the intellect is really good for bringing up a previous memory so that you're able to change your decision. What tends to happen is people try and do that as they're about to hit the shot. And that's when the left brain kicks back in and messes up the whole process. Now sorry.
So let me just kind of go back and recap those. So you had the pre-shot routine, you have the data and the decision making as the second the second
Uh-huh.
phase. The third is the decision.
No, that's still part of the second phase.
That okay.
Now,
Oh yeah, data and decision, and then you have number 3 is pull the club, and then 4 is four is intellect. Is that right?
no. So once we've done, that's all still data gathering and decision making.
Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Now, the end of that data gathering and decision making is how do we get out of that conscious left brain checklist state we're in? How do we get from that back into a flow state to walk in and hit the shot? And the easiest way that we to get out of that left brain back into right brain is by asking a question. So you simply would ask, what would a good shot look like? And then you don't answer that with words. This is the start of your imagination. So once we're able to get imagination firing, we're reactivating the right brain. Now, what it does is it creates an image. You get the visual of the shot that you're going to hit, and then it creates a sensation in your body to hit that shot. Now, once you've done that, now we're into the shot routine. Gotcha. Now we're standing behind the ball and we're ready to go to walk in, look out, look back, and hit the shot. And that's now what we were lucky enough to do was with FocusBand, we were able to quantify this shot routine process now. Now we have a system. We worked out a way to stay in that motion state throughout the routine, as from behind the ball, walk in, put the club down, look out, look back, and hit the shot. We're able to stay in motion throughout the whole routine without getting interrupted from the conscious mind.
So from behind the ball, you're saying when you're getting ready to step in, you're staying in that motion state this whole time. So this is after you've kind of visualized what a good shot looks like. Now you're getting ready to step up and hit the shot. You're getting in that motion state, or you're in that motion state that whole time.
You're in it the whole time until after you've followed through right through till the finish. You can stay in motion if you follow a certain pattern. So the pattern that we developed is your awareness always has to stay ahead of your eyes. So by that is what happens is most people's eyes and awareness are on the same thing as they look around the room. So the easiest way to do that, if you're sitting in front of a computer, is to put your eyes on, say, the corner of the screen. So if we're looking at a computer screen, put your eyes and awareness on the left-hand side of the screen. And then if you were to look to the top right of the screen, you'll notice that your eyes and your awareness go together. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens is most people's eyes get there first and then their awareness follows. And that's what throws you out. So the way to stay in motion is to be aware of the right. So if we start on the left-hand side of the screen, move your awareness to the right-hand side of the screen, and then move your eyes across to the right-hand side of the screen.
Okay.
And if you can imagine that is in a shot routine, like the ball and target, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to enable you to stay in motion while you're moving between objects.
So when I'm standing over the ball, and I actually had a little bit of this experience last year at the PGA show. I got to Sam Golden was there, and we've had Sam on the show actually. And so he had me hit a couple of balls, and I think I mentioned this on the previous show. And he had me do that where I was standing over the ball, kind of looking at the ball, looking then at what was the net or the screen that had the visualization or the visual of the course on it, and said, okay, pick a target there. And then he brought me back down to the ball, and he said, okay, now I want you to be aware of where your target is. Don't look at it yet. Be aware of it. And then kind of had me go back and forth. So I kind of understand what you're talking about here. And it was pretty unique because you're right. Usually you just kind of, okay, I want to look at my target. I want to look at the ball. I want to look at my target. I want to look at the ball. So why is it so important that we bring our awareness forward before we bring our eyes there?
Now, what happens is if your eyes are in front of your awareness, they don't know where to go. So what happens is they look out and they see trouble. They'll see a bunker. They'll see water, trees. They don't know what they're meant to be looking at. So, for instance, if you're looking down at the golf ball and then you look up and you see a bunker, you'll tend to hit it in the bunker.
Right.
Whereas if you're looking down at the ball and then your awareness goes to the flag, then your eyes go to the flag, they go straight there. They know what their role is. They're meant to be looking out to make sure where the flag is in the right position. Yep. And so now you balance to the target there, bring your awareness back to the golf ball, and then you bring your eyes back. And then you get ready to hit the shot. As you're about to hit the shot, your awareness goes back out to where you want to hit it, which is the flag, and then you hit the shot.
Gotcha. I think we can all kind of relate to that, standing over the tee box and pulling our head up and oh crap, there's that bunker's right where I'm going, or right by where I'm going, and you see that, and then all of a sudden you start thinking, like you said, you go back to that left brain side and don't hit it in that bunker, don't hit it in that bunker. So do you find that there are golfers that you work with, some that just capture this really easily and are able to do this very quickly, and that there are some that struggle with this?
Yeah, it's definitely the sort of part of, I guess it's our culture. We were all brought up to believe when you look out for the final time, when you look out to the hole for the final time or the flag, and you just bring your head back as fast as you can, and then you try and hit the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens was you're trying to leave your awareness on the target and bring your eyes back to the ball. And your brain and eyes actually can't do that. So wherever your eyes go, your awareness follows it, unless you put your awareness ahead of the eyes. Now, that's the fundamental difference. What we're able to do with FocusBand, because we're able to measure it now. We never knew that was the biggest thing. We didn't have a measuring device until 2010 that showed that method actually doesn't work. Doesn't allow you to stay in motion. It makes you drop out. So that's one of the biggest things that we worked out was, now you can hit it. You can hit it with your eyes moving just back, but it's very hit and miss. That's where the disconnect comes from, is just that last piece of the shot routine that causes the fuzz in the brain, if you want to call it. Because the eyes come back and the awareness is like, do I stay out on the target or do I come back to the golf ball?
Yeah.
And that's where the disconnect happens with most people. So the correct way is your awareness comes back to the ball, your eyes come back to the ball, get ready, and then the awareness goes back out to the target and you hit the shot.
So you actually, right before you hit the ball, you've got your awareness on the target, you've got your eyes on the target. You then bring your awareness back to the ball, you bring your eyes back to the ball, and then you take your awareness out to the target one more time before you strike it?
Yes.
Do I have that right? Okay.
That's right. And then you hit the shot.
Gotcha. And so, you and I were kind of talking a little bit before we got on the line here, and let me know if we need to circle back to some more of the pattern that you guys have come up with. But you and I talked about, just the idea of how being present is so important. Obviously, we're talking about motion and clearing the mind, and we hear that term a lot. Be present. Either whether that be with your kids or whether that be on the sports field or on the golf course or whatever. But I find that it's very difficult for people to, or I should speak from my own experience. I've tried meditation in the past and have tried different techniques and working when I'm here with my kids. Trying to stay in the moment is what it's all about. But it's a difficult thing to do. We have so many things going on, especially in today's age. We have so many distractions: our phones, our computers, our jobs, our families, whatever. How do you go about? You mentioned talking about the brain fundamentals with your golfers, and I want to maybe circle back to that as well. What are some of the tips that you have for people to learn how to become present, or for those that have tried maybe say meditation and have gotten frustrated and they're like, oh, it's just not for me? What would you say to somebody like that?
Sure. I guess we call that time traveling. Most people are in the future or the past, they don't know how to get back in the present moment. And the easiest way to get back in the present moment is obviously breathing is the easiest way to get back present. What the breathing does is it's a mind-body connection. So it gets you back into the present, like your mind and body. Now, the drills that's the first one that we do is breathing. And then the second drill is single point. We call it motion single point. And that's just putting your eyes and awareness on a single spot. That's the second drill. And then the third one that we do is motion flow. We brought that up earlier using the computer screen, just shifting your awareness ahead of your eyes. That helps you become present. So just moving your awareness ahead of eyes around a room. So the tour players, they do that in their hotel room. They'll just look at objects around the room, and it's just to train to get their mind, their awareness ahead of their eyes. They practice that constantly to make sure that they're not getting into the future, or they're not getting into the past as well. And then the other drills that we came up with is motion feet. Now, motion feet, this sort of starts to get back to the spirituality sort of stuff, is what it does, it helps you become grounded. Now, when you get connection to the earth, you get back into the present moment. Now, this all ties back to frequency. Like the earth resonates at a certain frequency, and it just so happens when you're in that frequency, that's when you're back in the present moment, which is around the 8 hertz mark. And then the fifth drill that we do is motion center. Now, there's a massive connection between the brain and center. Center is just below your belly button. Now, that's where all movement starts. And that's like martial artists and all Eastern philosophy. That's where your chi is, your energy center is in your center. And then the final drill that we do is motion whole body. And that's when we have mind-body awareness, total mind-body awareness. Now, all these drills, obviously, you can do them on your own, but they're a lot better when you have a feedback device on. So it tells you when you're in the ideal state.
And is this kind of like a hierarchy? Like you start with the breathing stuff, and you have to kind of, I don't know if master is the right word, but you have to kind of get your bearings on that before you can move on to the motion single point and escalate up? Or is this something that you will start working on a little bit with the different players, all of these different things?
We do it at the start of every session. We do those 6 drills every time we start.
Okay.
It's like a daily practice. Yeah, you'd never. It's not something that you just you master and then you don't need to do it. It's a daily practice because of today's society. You brought it up earlier, worrying about external factors like kids and traffic and work, and it all gets too much. What these drills do is they bring you back into the present moment. One of those 6 drills is really going to resonate with you. And what that allows you to do is you can call on those drills in your shot routine. So when you get to the tee, you can go, I'm good at doing motion feet. So I feel the connection to the ground, and that gets me back in the present moment.
Gotcha.
Some people are motion center, some people are breathing, some people are single point. It doesn't matter as long as you find one that works for you and that you can rely on. It's going to get you back in the present moment.
How long would this routine typically take? I'm sure it's different for everybody, and everybody, you can probably make it longer or shorter, but typically like on a daily basis. Is this something that you do like every morning or, as a routine part of your day?
Yeah, just 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. You can run through all those drills. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very fast. So we tend to get the guys to do that when they arrive at the golf course. That's the way we use the motion experience drills. So originally if they do it in their hotel room, by the time they get to the golf course, they've obviously driven there. Someone's cut them off, or they've been in traffic and they're frustrated and they have to get through the crowds. So the best place to do it is when you get to the golf course, in the locker room, on the range, run through the drills, gets you back in the present moment, and then you're ready to finish the rest of your practice off.
Are there any parts of this that you could maybe kind of give us a little more in depth of, or even walk us through here on the air? I'm sure it's probably not super easy, but maybe even the breathing or something that you could just kind of give us an idea of what some of this might look or sound like that we could try.
Yeah, sure. The breathing one is probably the most important of all of them. The easiest way is to put your one hand on your chest and one on your stomach.
Okay, I'm gonna do this right now. I'm encouraging everybody that's listening to this. Let's go ahead and, if you don't mind, Henry, we'll just kind of walk through the way that you would do it with one of your players.
Okay. So the first thing is I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. So as you breathe in and then breathe out, when you breathe out, which way does your stomach go? Does it go in or out?
As I breathe out.
As you breathe out,
my stomach goes in.
Stomach goes in. Okay. So you're in the correct phase. So what you might find is if you sit down a lot in an office job, you'll find that I find like probably 6 or 7 out of 10 people are breathing back to front now. So as they breathe in, the stomach goes in, and as they breathe out, the stomach goes out. Now, they're out of phase. So they're sort of like they're very short, shallow breathing.
Right. Kind of breathing up into their chest almost instead of breathing into their belly.
Correct. Yeah. And that's the fun. That's the first thing that we make sure that you're in the right phase. And that can go out of phase. You mightn't even realize it sometimes. So it's really important that you get the right phase. So you breathe in, stomach goes out. Breathe out, stomach goes in. Now, if you can also say, if you breathe in, we're going to add the pause in the two spots. So as you breathe in, stomach goes out, pause, and then breathe out. Stomach goes in, pause, breathe in, stomach out, pause, stomach in, breathe out. Now that's diaphragmatic breathing. There's a layer between the lungs and the stomach that's moving up and down, that's forcing the stomach to move out. So that's, if that would be the one takeaway I'd give everyone, is to do breathing. If you can, do a couple of minutes a day. You find if you do that just before you go to sleep as well, it really gives you a really good sleep. If you can do 4 or 5 minutes of breathing, I know a lot of people, their sleeping improves out of sight once they incorporate that.
Yeah, I mean, I even feel a little more relaxed right now, just sitting here at the desk with the computer. You know, it really does. It makes you concentrate on what's going on, but you kind of feel the tension just kind of fall away a little bit. So I definitely encourage you guys to give that a shot and try it for a couple of minutes. You know, we just did, a minute or so there, but try it for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And that's definitely something that I have tried and kind of do on a fairly regular basis, is just that breathing. But I've noticed the same experience that you have with a lot of my clients. When we talk about the breathing pattern and you tell them to take a big, deep breath in, they breathe up into their chest and their shoulders raise and their stomach, their stomach almost flattens instead of kind of pouching out a little bit. So definitely encourage that. I'd like to come back to, you mentioned the brain fundamentals, and you mentioned something about the 3 brains and the whole brain. And you said that was kind of the first thing that you would explain to somebody. I think if you don't mind touching on that a little bit, obviously not getting too scientific, we're all laypersons here. So if you could just kind of give us a glance over of some of that, just to give people a little more understanding, because I think sometimes people hear the talk about meditation or being present or the mind stuff, the brain stuff, and they're kind of like, oh, I don't know, that's a little out there. But I mean, I firmly believe in the fact that, energy is a big portion of what goes on with our body and how we perform and how our mental state is and our emotions. But if you could kind of touch on just some of those brain fundamentals, I think that'd be very helpful.
I might run through the basics of the left brain versus right brain. It's probably the easiest way to understand it. Your left brain is your training mode, or your analytical brain, and it's very good at doing It's like very good at doing lists, like sequential order, A, B, C, D, E, F. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think it can do about 40 instructions per second, which seems like a lot of instructions, which sounds pretty good. Your right brain is your play mode. Now, it's very good at the big picture, seeing it as a whole, and it does everything simultaneously. Now, it can do up to 11 million instructions per second.
That's incredible.
Yes. Now, the reason, the other way you can see it is your left brain does everything in serial, like A, B, C, D, F, whereas the right brain is doing everything parallel, like it's doing everything at once. So there's another way another analogy is we don't know all the muscles of the body that are firing when we do when we're hitting a golf shot. There's muscles turning on and off in our legs, our arms, our torso. How does that all happen? That's when we're in the flow state, in the right brain state. It's only when we try and control that, when we go, okay, make sure I have a flat left wrist and impact, or roll my right foot. That's when we stuff up the flow state.
Right.
Now, there is a time and place for working on technique. So you need to do that, and that is a left brain function. So you want to do that when you're in working on technique on the range with your coach. Keep that separate from play mode. It's when you try and put them together is when it gets messed up.
I think that's probably one of the biggest issues that most of us have is separating those two things, because we tend to do so much of that while we're out there, quote unquote, playing. We tend to be working or practicing. So what advice do you have? I mean, so let me ask a different question here. So talking about acquiring skill or working on skill, we're always working on something in our golf swing. Every single golfer is working on something at all times. How do we go about utilizing these tools, the FocusBand, being present? How do we utilize that when we're trying to acquire a skill? And then how do we use what we've learned and then take it to that play mode?
Now, when you're in that right brain phase, you are more open to listening as well. So it's very good as a learning phase to get into that right brain state. You're free of judgment. So you're listening to what the coach is telling you, and your body's absorbing it, and it goes in a lot faster without any filters blocking it. So any preconceived ideas. So the coach might say you're too steep or you're too flat, and then you're like, no, I'm not. You might say, no, I'm not, inside your head. All of a sudden, you've got this barrier. You're not taking in the information if you're in the left brain state. Now, if you can learn in this, you can learn a lot faster in this right brain state as well to get the information in. So there's an element of left brain, like the chunking of the information, but then when he's training you, or he or she is training you, is to get into that right brain state as fast as you can, and the improvement is a lot faster. That's what we've experienced.
So if the better you get at getting to that open-mindedness or being able to clear your mind for the learning, for the practicing, for the playing, the better you are at that, that's going to carry over to your skill acquisition, because you're able to learn that much better. And you still have that portion where you can chunk and put things in order and sequence and those kinds of things. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Awesome. Let me, if you could, before we wrap up here with a couple of last minute questions, I want you to give us a little bit more of an idea of what exactly the FocusBand is. We've been talking about it this whole time, but we haven't really described, what it is, how you use it. I know obviously that you've got the app that people can use to really kind of track and get their feedback. So can you just kind of give us a little more of a description of what the product actually is? Sure.
The FocusBand is a brain sensing headset, and we have multiple apps that allow us. There's the first app the original FocusBand app is about allowing you to experience being in the present moment. And that was a multi-purpose app that we used across multiple sports and any application. What we've added, the second part of this was we did the FocusBand combine drills. So this is when we started measuring the mental process against the results. So, for instance, we developed some putting combines where we measure motion, and I haven't brought up quiet eye yet. That's maybe another show. We measure motion and quiet eye, which is the process measurements, against your result. Did you hold the putt? So that was we had to prove to the players, to their belief systems, if they do this great process, does that equal like good result? And we were able to do that. So all of our stuff is measured against result eventually. So we always have to prove that if you get into motion, you get into quiet eye, what does that do to my result? That was the second app, the combines.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third app that we've done is Neurovision, which is FocusBand synchronized with live video. So now you can play it back. This is really good for coaches, and it's really good for everyone. You can play back you can record your shot routine, and you can see, did you stay in motion or did you drop out throughout your routine.
Wow! So you could be on the range, you could be practicing, or you could be playing and have a camera set up. And so, do you have is it the motion capture through the app? It catches you, and you have your FocusBand on. You hit your shot, and you can actually see like when you go through your process. Because I have a FocusBand, I have the app, I've played around with it, so you can see the different colors going from red to green during that pre-shot routine. That's pretty cool.
Yes, we can. So now you can, use the video scrubber bar across the bottom,
mm-hmm.
and you can stop it when it goes red and work out which part of the shot routine was causing you to have a blockage. So, for instance, you might walk in as you're putting the club down, you might go red, or when you're bringing your eyes back from the target for the final time. One of those things. Now you can look at it through video.
Wow, that's
and
amazing.
Then the latest app will be coming out in probably 3 or 4 weeks is the Blueprint app. So all that stuff that I spoke about, we've actually put it into an app, which guides you. It's guided audio, it's guided pictures with the neurofeedback. So we're able to quantify in a color code that we have a session report at the end, and it shows you when you went red. So same thing again when you walked in, or the really good part of this is after you hit the shot. Did you hit the shot? Did you stay green all the way through, or did you start thinking about it as it was mid-flight? Were you judging it too early? That's probably the app that's exciting me the most. So we've had it under beta release for a couple of weeks, and the improvement has been out of sight with people really, because there's a lot of steps in the process. It just automates it. It makes it a lot easier for the user. They don't have to remember all the steps. They just listen along to the cues, and then it just goes in.
That's awesome. Because my next question was going to be, so with someone like me, I have a FocusBand, and I've just kind of messed around with the app a little bit. I haven't really dug into it and haven't had somebody to really kind of show me how to use it. I was going to say, what's the first step? What's the first thing that you would have me do? It sounds like once this Blueprint app comes out, that's going to be the definite answer, where it will kind of walk somebody through all of that.
Yes, I'd totally recommend that. It really makes it a lot easier. So literally all the stuff that we used with the players, we put it into this app. So that allows you, it's like a virtual coach there guiding you along. Now we've done it in a particular way that makes that's windows of learnability is what it does. It teaches you beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So the beginner version explains every step, every position with 3 or 4 cues per position.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get comfortable with that, we go to intermediate and we drop it down to 2 cues per position. And then once you master that, then we go to advanced, and we only have one cue per position. So there's a progression. And then obviously finally we're hoping that you don't need any cues. You can run through it on your own. And that's when you have mastery. So we have the skill acquisition, the first phase. Now, skill acquisition, it was usually around 1,000 reps was what it usually takes to get through that. With the neurofeedback, it's almost up to 10 times more effective. We're seeing we can get that skill acquisition down to about 150 shots quite comfortably, getting that skill. And the other one that we're looking at is the 10,000, the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 rule.
Right.
We want to see if we can apply that same formula. Can we cut that down to 1,000, 1,500 rather than 10,000? So we're in the early phases of that testing to see if we can accelerate the learning using the neurofeedback.
This is pretty awesome. I can't wait to hear some of the reports, and once the Blueprint app comes out, can't wait to try that. Now, as far as the people listening, what are the best ways for them to be able to use the FocusBand? Is this something that they can purchase, or do they have to work with a coach, or what's the best way for them to get an experience where they can utilize the product?
The best way is we have a free training guide online that runs you through those motion and experience drills. And then we also have two packages. We have online digital learning system online. So we have an intermediate pack and then an advanced training course packs that you can obviously purchase them online. And you can just you can go to that through our website. You can see our link. But yeah, there is a free getting started. Then there's the intermediate and advanced training courses available online. And that gets you up to speed straight away with all the fundamentals of how to get the best out of the FocusBand.
Perfect. We'll definitely link all those up in the show notes here. All right, Henry, before we get going, I have just a few questions to have a little fun here at the end. Are there any stories you can share of any possible players that you've worked with, a great experience that you've had, or maybe a funny experience that you've had of somebody either really doing really well working with the FocusBand, or somebody that just really struggled and just couldn't get into that present state?
I'd probably say Padraig was the most fun to work with. Padraig Harrington. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Both we went through struggle and went through really good together. Yeah, he was awesome to work with. I really enjoyed my time working with him. And he's probably one of the best at getting into motion I've seen throughout the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, he's incredible at it. So, that would probably be it with the players that I.
That's interesting because, when I think of Padraig, I think of a guy who, has tried so many different things, and it sounds like he's always constantly working on something. I would have thought that he would have been one of the guys that struggled to, get out of that left side of the brain. But that's very interesting to hear that he's one of the guys that was able to adapt most quickly. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Let's see. Of course, I have to ask on the show every time, are you more of a Caddyshack or a Happy Gilmore fan?
I do like both. I loved Rodney Dangerfield in that, the original Caddyshack. I'm probably leaning towards Happy Gilmore now, just because it's more recent in my mind.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. If you had the chance to walk 18 holes of golf with anyone in the world, and it could be past, present, or future, doesn't necessarily have to be somebody in the field of golf, who would it be? Why would you play with them? And where would you play?
I'd definitely play Augusta for sure. That was one of the most amazing places I've been to. And there's a martial arts guy, probably this guy called Peter Ralston is the guy. I read all 3 of his books. He's just a unique guy.
You're gonna have to give me a little background on him. I don't know that name.
So he was the first Caucasian guy to go to Asia and win martial arts like Kung Fu, I think it was, in like 1975, when they sort of like kickboxer, they had 2-on-1 and he was able to he won. He won the title over there.
Wow.
So he has 3 books. I think it's called Zen Body Being, The Art of Effortless Power, and then the final book is the Book of Not Knowing, which is about 300 pages of not knowing, which is quite funny when you read the book. I'd recommend those books. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. And with everything that you guys have going on with FocusBand, I know you're working with a ton of tour players and you guys have had great success. What's kind of the mission moving forward with the company, with working with golfers and even beyond?
Probably the 2 apps this year is for golf is definitely the Blueprint app. I think that's going to really revolutionize how we train the process. You still have your technical work, but this really changes the way you practice. It really makes it enjoyable again. And then the second one is we did GPS brain tracking last year briefly on tour. That's going to come back in this year. So we can track the player as they're walking around the golf course, their state of mind as they walk around. So are they emotional or are they in left brain?
No way.
That's pretty amazing. So what that does is it allows us to see, is their practice translating into the tournament?
That's incredible.
And that's approved by the USGA. So we're good to go on that one. Yep.
Holy cow. It just amazes me, the explosion of technology over the past how many years, and just the capabilities that it had that are out there. I mean, I was at the PGA show and, I saw shirts that you can wear that basically track your movement. And, you've got things that are measuring your brain waves and GPS of your brain now. It's kind of crazy. I can't wait to see what you guys are coming up with in the near future. All right, my man, I really appreciate having you on the show. And I know that a lot of the listeners have heard of the FocusBand and they want to know more information about it. Where's the best way that they can, or where's the best place that they can go to find you guys, website, social media, all of those good things?
It's focusband.com is the best on the website. And then we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's all under, it's either FocusBand or FocusBand Brain Train is the handle. If you just look for that, and just drop us a line, or you can always email henry@focusband.com.
Perfect. And again, I'll have all that stuff linked up on the show. Henry, I just want to say once again, thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure, not only just to have you on the show today, but over a year ago, and we got to hang out and have a couple drinks with you and your dad, and just kind of sit and chat about how this whole thing started and just kind of the movement that you guys have created and where you're going. So kudos to you on such an amazing job, and I really do look forward to what you guys have coming in the near future. So thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you for joining me on this show. Hopefully you got a lot out of that. I know that the whole idea of meditation and being present and clearing the mind can be very kind of daunting and difficult. I know that personally I've tried some of these techniques, and at first they're a little challenging. It's hard to kind of get your brain around it. And if you're one of those people like I was a couple of years ago that was like, whoa, this is kind of woo-woo, this is kind of weird, trust me, this stuff is, if you talk to some of the highest level players, this is some of the stuff that is really making a huge difference in the way that they play and the way that they practice for their game of golf. If you want any more information on Henry, you can just check out episode number 128 on 18strong.com or go to 18strong.com/Henry Boulton. We've got all the links in there, everything that we talked about, the links to the free training guide, and everything else that you want to know about the FocusBand or how to get in touch with them to find out more about the FocusBand. And once again, if you're not a part of our private Facebook group yet, the 18 Strong Movement, you have to come and join the conversation over there. It's some of the best and brightest in the world as far as health and fitness and golf and mental game. The people that we've had on the show are in that group, but it's also meant for you, the listener of the show, the golfer, to come in, interact, and ask your questions, whatever you want. You know, you never know who's going to answer. It could be somebody that you listen to on an episode, or you can direct a question specifically to them, and they will get back to you. Or, you know, we just have been stirring up a lot of different conversations in the group that I think is really building a unique community amongst the listeners of 18 Strong and the professionals that we've had on the show. Again, thank you for joining me. Don't forget, if you want to get your hands on the Super Speed Golf Clubs, go to superspeedgolf.com and use the code 18Strong, or head over to 18strong.com/superspeed to check out the videos that we mentioned earlier on. That's it for this week. Stay tuned next week where we have a very special guest. Train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.